Hi, welcome to the channel. So my name is Pauline and today I'm going to be talking to you about the various expenses that you should expect if you are thinking about starting a trucking company. There's just a lot of money that goes through the business. Yes, there is money to be made, but the expenses are also there. So I want you to be prepared when you're coming into this business and give you a snapshot of what expenses that you might be expecting to have on a monthly basis. So ideally what we are going to, how we're going to categorize this is we're going to look at, first of all, we have the fixed expenses, and then we have the variables. The fixed expenses, just like you hear it, is, it doesn't matter whether you work or not, you're going to pay these ones. As long as you are, open for business and you've decided to have this thing running for you, you have to pay these expenses or bills. I don't know if bills works if we're talking about a business. You can't call it bills, but the expenses, some of them are fixed and some of them are variable. When you look at fixed expenses, it doesn't matter whether the trucks are moving or not, you're paying them. It doesn't matter whether you're away for vacation, you still have to account for them because they are still a necessity. They must be there for the company to run, and these are somehow predictable because you know them from the get-go. Much as you can tweak some of them around and you can negotiate around them, but you do have a rough idea of how much they are going to be at the end of the day. When you're starting out on a monthly basis, you do know exactly how much you're going to spend on each of these expenses if they fall in the fixed category. But if they are variable, then of course they vary depending on how much work you've done, on where you are, on a lot of other factors that influence how we do get the money in this business. So how we do operations here, it will change depending on the situation, and then you will be seeing a different amount on a monthly basis. But that doesn't mean you don't have a rough idea. It's just that it's not set in stone that this is how much you're going to spend on a monthly basis year round. So the very first fixed expense that you should look at is the very big one. Insurance. Insurance is where everybody has a lot of variables. I know some people do ask me, oh, how much do you pay? Oh, we've had you paid this much. How do you get around it? It doesn't matter. Everybody is different. Your situation is not the same as mine. Some of us just started to drive here in America just recently, so it will vary. And how the underwriting goes is also different depending on your driving record, depending on your drivers, who are you bringing in, how long you've been in business, how many equipments do you have. So insurance is one of them. It's fixed because you have a set amount that you're going to be paying on a monthly basis from the get-go, and you can be able to predict this out throughout the entire year. We have something to do with equipment payments. So if you got this truck from a lender or through a bank, it doesn't matter whether you're working or not, whether you've started or not, they expect their money on whichever date you've agreed upon. So that is also something that you have to be able to understand from the get-go, that this will always stay. So that's why we always keep this idea of wanting to keep the trucks rolling, because some of these expenses do not care and they do not wait. They will be running on you whether the truck is working or not, whether you have drivers or not, whether you feel like it. That expense is going to be there. The bank will expect its money. So we have things to do with load boards. If you are the one doing your own dispatching, the paid subscription-based load boards pretty much tell you their price point when you're signing up with them, even though some of them I've seen have changed their pricing points recently, but it's not that dramatic. So you can be able to predict this one too. You can know how much it pays out. Actually going out and paying for an entire year also helps you get some discounts and locks your pricing point. So you can be able to know this one right out. And then we have the ELD. ELDs also come with subscriptions, or paying it outright for the entire year. So we have ELDs, which is the electronic logging devices that give you driving hours. So these ones are also fixed expenses that you should expect to have. If you are somebody who took a course when you're getting into this business, that is also a fixed expense. Or if you're somebody who does trainings or throughout the year, then you can be able to know which trainings you're going to be taking. But they're not that many, unless you're that person who keeps on trying to add more stuff into your knowledge of the tracking business. And I'm telling you, there's a lot to learn. Then we have taxes. There's exercise taxes, which are best usually on your city. Those come for whichever equipment that you have. You must pay for those taxes, and those can also be predicted. You pretty much know this when you are getting your track, and you're able to predict this out. Then we have some accounting fees. Ideally, you have to have some kind of accountant, a professional, look into your books on a monthly basis, quarterly, depending on your knowledge of accounting, how far you can be able to take this. But having somebody professional every now and then to come look at your books. I know some people do it themselves. I personally do it myself too, but I do get somebody to look at my books on a quarterly basis to see what I'm doing wrong, if I'm keeping up with everything, and if I'm stuck somewhere, I know where to go and get some inquiry. These ones are also fixed. I usually try to go and negotiate out something at the beginning of our relationship, such that I don't get fluctuations, or every now or get a different price point every time I have to do a consult. And then we have the phone bills and internet. These ones, pretty much it. You start the year off and how much you're going to spend on a monthly basis, and that is still set in stone, and that is how it will be throughout the entire time. Yes, some people might see phones are not part of the business, but I do have two separate phones, and one of them is for the business and the other one is personal. So I do account for that fee. And the more and more you begin to do this business, you're going to see that this is also a fee that you can reroute through your company. This is one of those expenses that you can be able to write off, even if it is on a personal phone, and you get some kind of tax write-off on that. Depending, it could be bank charges or payments to your payroll charges. If you have employees, if you have contractors, and you have to be paying them on a monthly basis or weekly, or depending on whichever time you do pay them out, you will be incurring some kind of wire transfer fees. Or if you're using some accounting software, then it will be charging you some kind of price point. Another thing you could account for is hotels. Hotels can be also predicted a little bit if you choose to give your drivers hotels, or if you're an owner operator, then you can choose to keep it within some sort of minimum, like maybe $100 for hotels on a weekly basis. Then you can be able to keep it in the lines of that. So when we talk about the other side, we see there are some variables. Those are the ones that will depend on how far you're driving, how much of anything that you're doing. And in the very top most, the very big expense right there that we can start with is fuel. If you know this, besides payroll, we have fuel. Fuel is really expensive, and it is a big cost, and it takes, I think, 25%, if not more, of the costs for your tracking. For each load that you do, a little bit more or less, depending on the fuel consumption of your vehicle. But ideally, that is how much it would be taking away from each pay load that you're getting. We have the big fuel cost there, and we have driver pay, and that one also depends, because here in Pathfinder Freight, excuse me, because here in Pathfinder Freight we use a lot of percentage-based payouts. That's how we pay our contractors. We see that this also varies. Driver pay varies because every time we do a load, it's not the same price point. So we can always be sure that The price point for one driver pay is not going to be the same if we get another load coming from a different place. So that is different. And then we have the tolls, depending on which state highways that you go through, whichever toll roads. I've actually just completed a bunch of tolls today because one of my trucks didn't have an didn't have one of those transponders, and I've been just piling them on the side. Today I had to pay most of them out, and the tolls were ridiculously high for today, but I don't know, that's just life. But they do vary depending on which state you're going through and which toll booth you're going through. They do vary. Then we have permits. They also vary depending on which state. Those ones, we should be expecting them to be a variable too. We have dispatcher pay. If you are using a dispatcher to get you loads, these ones can also vary, because much as the percentage could be set in stone, the amount changes depending on how much you've made. So if you made like 8,000, it's going to be different. If you made 6,000, it's going to be different. So the dispatcher pay also falls under that variable expenses. Then we have factoring. Factoring, yes, when you're starting out with them, they'll give you a percentage between 2 to 3. Most of them are keeping it around that. So they also vary depending on how many loads you did and how much they were costing altogether. Factoring of a load of 500 is not going to be the same cost as factoring of a load of 1,000. Yes, the percentage is the same, but the payout is different. So that becomes a variable too. And then we have repairs and maintenance. In repairs, we have tire changing, we have oil changes, we have any replacement of parts or any breakdowns or any kind of wash that you do every now and then. All of those will vary depending on what kind of truck you have, how good is it, how new is it. There's a lot of variations when it comes to repairs and maintenance of the equipment that we use in the trucking business. So that is mostly what I have been able to gather around from my accounting system, and to be able to give you a snapshot of some of the expenses that you might expect to have if you start a trucking company. If you enjoy this kind of content, smash the like button. Remember, you should subscribe to this channel because we are trying to get this to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one.